Welcome to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Noethling. You are about to discover impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you, so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Be sure you visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now tune in, get ready, and enjoy the journey of emerging as a leader of exception in the 21st century.
Welcome, everyone, to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast. I'm your host, Vicki Noethling, coming to you from Roswell, Georgia. The goal of this podcast is to bring topics and guests that will empower you to become that confident leader and take your business and your life to the next level. Today, I am very excited to have with me Alice Fairfax, and let me tell you about Alice. With insights and stories from her career as a Walt Disney World performer, Alice Fairfax provides 50 tools to help businesses harness the power of a story to capture target audiences and inspire them to take action. Being an actor at Walt Disney World was all about engaging an audience, a hot, sweaty, and tired audience who just wanted to find some air conditioning. She wondered, how could we get them to stay? So then it came to her with a great story and techniques she honed as an improvisational storyteller, performing audience interactive shows. She needed the audience to not only listen, but also she needed them to participate in the shows. The principles that she learned and perfected will help you engage your audiences online, in social media, and in the room. Her latest book is now available, and it is Tell Your Story, Tools to Take You from a Tweet to a TED Talk. So that is our theme today. Tell your story from a tweet to a TED Talk. Please join me in welcoming Alice Fairfax. Alice, so excited to hear more about your background and about what you do. But before we get started with that, I just want to welcome you for being on my show.
Well, thank you so much, Vicki. I'm thrilled.
And we always start with really 2 easy questions for you. Although sometimes people prove me wrong that they're easy. But anyway, the first question is, where do you call home? Where do you live right now?
I live in Orlando, Florida, in a little suburb of Orlando called Winter Garden. And
Oh, I know it.
Yes, it's so cute. It's so cute. Our little brick streets. And we're about 20 minutes away from Walt Disney World. We don't get to see the fireworks at night, but we sure hear them.
So your pets are just going crazy every night.
Yes. Well, I think all the pets in Winter Garden are really used to it, as are all of us. It's like, what's that sound? It sounds like an explosion. It's fireworks.
I lived near a train track that was not active as I was growing up. It just had a train that came in a couple times a night and in the day to go to a Westinghouse plant. But the train track, because it wasn't used that often, was kind of rusty a little bit. So when the train came at the slow speed, it was like,
ow.
Every night, twice a night. And like you said, you do get used to it, but it was like, oh man, oil the tracks.
You have to.
Oh my goodness. All right. So the second question is, I gave some of your story and what you do, but I always like to really have you give delve a little deeper into it. And, what was that point that you said, oh my goodness, I do have to do this. And everybody thinks, well, you were a performer. Everything was always wonderful in your life. Always.
Yes. So easy.
So share a little bit about what your journey was like that got you to where you are today, so the audience might get a better idea of who you are.
Absolutely. Well, I was always that performer child and, did ballet as a kid and little plays and all that kind of thing. So I knew that that's something that I wanted to do. And I did follow that as my career and was an actor for a very long time. I went to school for theater and all of that sort of thing. My dad was in the Navy, so we moved around a lot.
Oh,
And so being a performer, being in the choir, being in the theater was a good way to connect with people. And that was certainly one of the first areas that I learned of being able to introduce myself to people was with telling a story about what
yeah.
happened to me that day or where I was from or anything like that was a good connection point. It kept people laughing and getting people to know you and that kind of thing. Um, but really, being a performer is really about it's kind of like being a teacher. You have to be there at a certain time. And I was working at Walt Disney World, and I was also volunteering at a large church and doing the drama there on the weekends back in the day when people used drama in church settings. And we had a very charismatic storytelling lead pastor, very well known for his storytelling. And so then other people would get up to, like give the parking announcement or whatever.
Yes.
And these people would just fall apart getting up in front of the audience and
Yes.
feeling this pressure that they had to be like Dr. Joel Hunter and tell stories like he did. You just have to give the parking announcement. So I started giving a little trainings on how to be a good speaker and how to
Yeah.
tell your own story and how to use your own voice instead of trying to be someone else. And
Yeah.
so that kind of started these workshops that I was doing, and I really started. I was obviously in a lot of nonprofits because I was in the theater in my spare time and in the church. So there just were a lot of places that really needed the help, where the executive director, had a passion for pet rescue, and that's why they started their nonprofit. They did not have a passion for getting up and talking to people and giving presentations. And so I started helping people and doing these little workshops. And then the workshops turned into 8-hour workshops. And people started asking, can we get this material? How can we get this material? And so then I was able to put it into a book, and Tell Your Story became my second book. And it really puts all these tools into your hands. And that became a real passion point for me. Because again, as an actor, you have to be there physically. And so kind of as my life moved on and I had a family, it wasn't as easy to have that lifestyle where I absolutely had to be at Epcot at 2 p.m. in the sun every single day.
Yeah.
And so I was looking for that transition, and writing and leading workshops became that transition for me.
Awesome. So we're so aligned. It's so crazy. Yeah. Um, it's it's amazing how people write books and they think, I'm written my book. And I was like, wait, well, there's another part of this. You have to promote your book. You have to talk to people
I know
online or
most
in
writers
person. I
don't want
know.
to. They just want
I
to be
know.
in their room.
I know. I know. It's kind of like engineers. And so that's exactly why I do what I do too. It's because, my gosh, you'll sit and you'll tell me one-on-one how great your product is and how everything is. And then I say, okay, let's do a podcast. Oh no.
No,
It's
not
like,
for
oh
me.
no,
Yeah.
no, 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 I can't do that.
I know. And now small business leaders and nonprofit leaders, you think about all the ways they have to tell their story now and have to communicate. I mean, it used to be you sent out a flyer or you sent out mail or you got up and spoke at the Rotary Club and that was it. Now you have to tell a story every single day in what on Instagram, which is different than LinkedIn, which is different than Facebook, which is different than Twitter or X or whatever it is today. And all these different, and now you have to, I have leaders look at me like, do I have to TikTok? Okay, well, let's relax. Let's think about what's best for your business. Let's think about how you tell your story, because doing an insincere post isn't really going to
Yeah.
help you. That's not really going to help.
No. But it is true. And when I got started in public speaking training, I was my maybe early 30s or so. And I did volunteering all the time. Like I sweat labor, but just like you, I started to have kids and I couldn't always bring my baby. You know, when they got older, they came. But I thought, how can I help these people? They have such a great cause and they weren't getting the message out. So I thought, okay, let me be that vehicle, that instrument for them to get their message out and bring the passion and so that's really how I decided to do that, as well as I was suddenly thrust into supervision, training and coaching and inspiring 9 people. And I thought,
Yeah.
okay, I can't be the introvert anymore. Darn it. I have to get out there.
Well, and that's kind of the great thing is if you learn the tools to telling a great story, that is always there for you. You don't have to make it up on the spot. You can learn to manage your nerves. One whole section of the book is about delivery and
Yeah.
handling your nerves and getting up and speaking. And the first 2 sections are about crafting that content. And once you lock into this is what a story is, and you have that confidence, if I could say that, that you're trying to build in people, once you have the confidence of this is a good story, this is how this is delivered, I know how to do that, you can kind of rest in that framework, and that can give you
Absolutely.
the confidence to keep going.
So you gave a little bit of insights just now, but tell us, what is your story formula, and then how do we use that to be able to tell a great story? Because people will say to you, "Oh, Alice, I just am not a storyteller." You know, or you have people that are like, I've had managers like this, just give me the facts. I don't, it's like,
Yes.
no,
Yeah, we don't need to
no,
tell a story.
nobody
Or
gets, nobody gets wrapped around facts. I'm so sorry to tell y'all.
yes, yes. I quote Seth Godin often. He says that people do not buy goods and services, they buy relations, stories, and magic.
Yeah.
And that's the truth. That you have a relationship with the product that you are buying and are loyal to. That's how
Mm.
you continue on. Yes. So one of the first things that I wanted to do in my trainings was give people novices at storytelling some tool that they could put on a blank page, because there's nothing worse than the blank page. We all hate the blank page,
Yeah.
right? So I wanted them to have a tool that they could use in any situation and know this is a good story. I've developed a good story. And so I created what I call the story formula. And it's simply this: to be a great story, it must be universal, so we relate, and specific, so we care.
Yeah.
And anytime you create a story like that, you will create a great story. And so I lead people through exercises where on that blank page, we put the word universal at the top. And of course, by we, I mean our audience. So
Mm-hmm.
then we list our universal themes. What are the themes of our business or of myself that relate to anyone on the planet?
Yeah.
Right. And then that answers the question for every CEO, every executive director who says to the marketing director, oh, well, our product is for everyone. And the marketing director's pulling their hair out. You have to have a target audience. So we know you have to have a target audience, but let's go ahead and start with the universal theme and say, okay, our product is about getting to the next level in life. Our product is about building confidence.
Mm.
Everyone on the planet wants to know how to do that, right?
Right. Right.
So then we take that blank page and we list out some themes and pick the one that is the most resonant. Then we take another part of that blank page and put down specific. Then we want to get some juicy specifics that paint a real picture. And that's what makes the audience care, and makes them keep listening. Because
Mhm.
if you just tell a super universal story, it'll feel like, oh, well, that's not really for me. That's not
Right,
about me.
right.
But when you can pick out some specifics, the red wagon, the green car,
Mm.
uh, the blue lake, when you can just drop in a few specifics, all of a sudden people's eyes light up and they start connecting. And that's certainly what I learned in those hot, sweaty days at Epcot. Is if I was losing them, I would toss in something that was a little bit of a more exciting sentence and
Yes,
make it more
exactly.
specific. And it's like a little bit of glue. People just stick to the story. And then that in that specifics, that's where we can relax with our marketing director about, this is how we're going to reach this target audience, is with these specifics. And you can
Mhm.
lay that story formula on any story format. You can lay it down on, that's why the subtitle is the book is From a Tweet to a TED Talk, because if you use that story formula in a tweet, it will be successful. If you use it in a 20-minute TED Talk, it will be successful. And that will give you the confidence to be able to tell you a great story.
And it's so true what she's saying. I always, whenever I teach, I talk about music and a great. I'm a country music lover, even though I'm a Pittsburgh girl. But um, a great country song is the story,
Yeah.
and it is in that storytelling in that song that hooks the people. And then it's, how you deliver that song, that holds your attention, the engagement. So what what tips do you have for that person? Okay, Alice, I got the story. I went through the formula. I've got the universal. I have the specifics. So how do I deliver that?
Yes. Yeah, that's where the knees start shaking and the hands
Yes.
start shaking and the breath gets really short. And so I offer people some simple exercises that we as actors use. Gosh, I'm full of these little formulas. So my my formula for getting up in front of people is, what you want to be in front of an audience is relaxed and energized at the same time. And so, because often, oh, I'm going to combat my nerves. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to get really zen. And you kind of get yourself into this state that isn't like you. And where, or I'm going to resist these nerves. I'm not going to get nervous. And now you're really, really tight. Right. So you don't want either of those things. You want to be able to control. Your body will flip out on you. It is going to say, I don't belong here. Fight or flight or freeze is going to happen to you, because that's what it should do. And so you
Yes.
want to honor your body and let it know it's all going to be okay. And the way I get people relaxed and energized is I just have them do this really simple little exercise where you take your arm and you shake it. Take one arm and you shake it out, and then put it back by your side. And now you can feel there's a little bit of energy running through that arm, and the other arm feels a little bit, kind of
Mm.
like dead weight. So then you do that with the other arm. Then you do that with each foot, and you put them on the ground nice and solid. And that's what relaxed and energized feels like. You just shake out those nerves, let
Mm.
them out of your body, let your body be a little bit energized from that feeling. And then you have control over that. And that's where you want to get to.
Awesome. So we have the formula for our story. We have the formula for being energized and engaging. You talk about something called story culture. Tell us,
Yeah.
what is story culture?
Well, I believe that the most powerful technology is this ancient story, is this ancient technology of story, and that applies to any technology today. Every single technology we're seeing is story driven, right? All of the Instagram, all of the influencers, all the people doing selfies, they're trying to tell their story. They're trying to be heard. And so we are in this culture. We've always been a culture of storytellers. That's how we've shared information. And it feels like, oh, this is too much. TikTok and tweeting. Oh no, wait, now it's X. Okay, now, oh, should I do LinkedIn or should I do a blog? Oh, maybe I should do Substack. What should I do? It feels like a lot. But the truth is, it is no different than being around the fire circle.
That's
We
right.
are a story culture. We have always told stories. And if you can remember that the power of story is what's driving all these different technologies,
Mm.
you get to pick and choose which one is best for you and how to use it. And that's true even as we look at AI. You know, I saw a funny meme from a screenwriter who said, "Why is it that all the AI is learning how to write screenplays? Can't it pick plastic out of the ocean?" Like, but that's what it's doing. It's learning how to tell stories. And so if you're going to use AI to help you in your communications, you have to know what a good story is. No one
That's
wants to hear
right.
your robot story. They want to
No.
hear an authentic story from you. So if you're using a typewriter, to a computer, to an iPad, to AI, to texting, to tweeting, to whatever, you need to just master that technology and tell your story.
Yeah.
And that's what's powering all of this technology. And so that's what I mean by the story culture. We're in
Yeah.
it, we've always been in it. Don't be scared. It isn't any different than the fire circle.
Yeah, and that kind of goes back to, what we talked about earlier, that, can't be just a bunch of facts, because that person is not going to resonate with that. And so when they sat around the fire, or wrote things on the walls of
Yes.
way back when in caveman time, there had to be a link, a story to it. It, wasn't just a picture of a hammer and type of thing.
Right, right. And the key to that is that information gets disseminated through the story. And so that is one way. I talk a lot about how to get that data into the story and how to tell the story. Often in my workshops, I'll tell a story about my experience, and then I'll put up my resume and I'll ask, is it the same information? Are you
Mm.
getting the same information? And yes, you are. Now, in some cases, you still need that resume. You still need that data. You still need that chart. I was working with a nonprofit this week, a group called Special Hearts Farm, where special needs adults work on a farm. And they're applying for a grant, and the grant requires you to show all of these charts, all of this data about what you've done in your business, what the timeline is for your growth. There
Yeah.
were all these slides of charts and data. And so we just talked about how can you shape that into a story, because the data is important. And if you tell a story first, they'll be engaged, and then they'll receive the data, they'll receive the facts
Yeah.
in a more powerful way.
Yeah. Whenever I do feedback and evaluate some of the stories or the speeches that some of the folks I have are giving, and they just want to, as you say, just put all these slides. But the story, as you tell the story, you could have that data there, but the story is going to help them relate it to themselves, where the data is just a bunch of numbers and they won't remember that. They'll remember the story, and then they know, oh, I can go back and refer to the data if I need it.
Right.
But people will remember the story before they'll remember the data.
Yeah. And even with the data, I always say there is a story overlay. So think about that universal theme that would make anyone relate to it. The same nonprofit, I said, okay, the story of your message today is we're about to go to the next level.
Yeah.
That's a powerful story. So even when you're sharing the timeline, you're telling the story. You're
Yeah.
about to go to the next level. Here's our budget. We're about to go to the next level. When you frame it all with that universal theme, that story theme that's driving your data, people will pay attention.
Yeah, for sure. So when they pay attention, especially in this nonprofits, when people start to pay attention, what is that impact then for that nonprofit?
Yeah, I think the great thing about a story is that it engages people in, and as I said before, in relations. It's relationship building. And that's what we're talking about with entrepreneurs, and that leadership confidence that people need to have. You don't want to do a one and done. You want to build a relationship. And especially for nonprofits, you don't want a donor to give just once. You want them engaged. You want them continuing to follow you. And so when you tell stories and are able to share your stories with your constituents, with your participants, with your donors, with your audience base, with your target audience base, with your clients, it becomes a relationship.
Yeah.
Because invariably they'll share a story back. How many
Mm-hmm.
times has that happened where you've shared something and then after the presentation, somebody's come up and said, that exact same thing happened to me. And then they tell the story in which that exact same thing did not happen to them. It's completely different, but because they were connected between that universal theme, they feel like
it's the
we
same.
share this bond.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a bonding experience.
So true. Well, as I knew it would be, time has flown by, but I do have a rapid fire question for you. Inquiring minds want to know, what's your favorite Disney behind the scenes memory?
Oh my gosh, I have so many.
I bet you do.
I
You
have
could give
so
us
many.
two.
I was there for over 20 years. Well,
Wow.
one of my favorite is anytime you would see a celebrity, you would kind of shrink back, and you don't want to bother a
Embarrass
celebrity
them.
who's
Yeah.
at Disney World. You're there. You're an employee, a cast member. You want to support them and give
Mm-hmm.
them the freedom to move around. And during Candlelight, which is a Christmas event, and there's always a celebrity narrator, and that takes place at Epcot. And Epcot was my home for a long time. And I was a holiday storyteller. I was very often in Germany. And one of the times, Edward James Olmos, who is a great actor, and he was at the time starring in the Battlestar Galactica series, and I was watching it. And he's a great theater actor as well. And I was coming back from offset in my holiday costume, and he was getting ready to go into a rehearsal to be the narrator for the Candlelight concert. And I just saw him from afar. And of course, he didn't know me at all. And he was there with all his Disney handlers. And my arm shot up in the air and I just waved this huge wave like he'd been my neighbor forever. And he looked at me and he waved right back. And I blew him kisses and grabbed my heart. And I was just like, I just love you. I didn't go near him, didn't rush him. You don't ask for their, but it was such a great memory to me of being backstage. And he just was so thrilled, of course, that somebody recognized him and was excited to see him. And then he went in and met with all of the teenagers that were singing in the choir that day, to big cheers and excitement. But things like that happen all the time there.
Yeah, so cool. All right. So if you've enjoyed this conversation that we've had today with Alice, then you're going to want to get in touch with her and see how maybe she could help you tell your story. So I'm going to share her contact information. If you're just listening, as I always remind you, go quick and grab a paper and pencil if you haven't done so. And you can get all this information on my YouTube channel, Vicki Noethling. So please do subscribe, as well as my findyourleadershipconfidence.com. All right, so the website is alicefairfax.com. And the Facebook page is Tell Your Story Workshops with initial caps. So Tell Your Story Workshops. LinkedIn, yay, it's her name, Alice Fairfax. And Instagram is Alice Fairfax. She is, as she said, on those others, but we're going to just have her share with you now her call to action and what you can find on those on the website, any resources or tips or any of those formulas that she talked about, as well as how to get her book. And then also any social media that she spends the most time in, she'll give you the clue of that so that you can DM her to get a faster answer to your questions. So Alice, it's all yours.
Oh, thank you so much, Vicki. Yes, you can visit me at alicefairfax.com, and there you can put in your email address, and you'll be able to download a workbook that goes with the Tell Your Story book. And you can get the Tell Your Story book anywhere you get books, on Amazon, barnesandnobles.com, anywhere you go, you can get that book. And where you can find out about me, most often I spend a little time on Instagram for some fun, but most times I'm on LinkedIn. That's where you'll get the most information, updated workshops and speaking engagements. That's where you can find the most updated information and kind of see me in action the most. But if you want to visit alicefairfax.com, you can learn a little bit more about me and grab that workbook for the Tell Your Story book, and they'll go hand in hand.
Awesome, Alice. It's been so wonderful chatting with you. I loved your stories, and you gave really wonderful advice for the audience. I hope they all will take notice of that and take action, as we talked about earlier. And as always, want to thank you for being such an awesome guest.
I just enjoyed talking with you so much. I'm so thrilled to share with your audience, and I just love your message of giving them confidence. And I hope that by sharing with them how to tell a great story, that builds their confidence even more.
Awesome. As always, I remind everyone that life is a journey, and it's up to you to enjoy the ride. This is Vicki Noethling signing off.
Thank you for tuning into the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Noethling, where we share impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Remember to visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast.